The rehearsal of the professional company is still a long way off. News of the amateur rehearsals, however, does begin to filter back as the design and wardrobe start getting factory-size orders. Orlock's production will eventually use 965 costumes. Jennifer Wilson's part alone calls for 12. But the full enormity of it all is clearest in the office.
Born Players, that's another Farnham one. Right, this one's Godalming, Linda. Up there, that's it, yes. Yes, we've got one here. Winchester.
That's off the map.
That's on the map. Put it on the side, I should.
300 addresses of the stage struck. The amateur call for Cavalcade is like rumour on Broadway. Everybody wants to be in it.
Frimley, that's up near Farnham again.
So, what are they letting themselves in for?
There's a typical Noel Coward play in that it is those snappy scenes, the very sharp dialogue is there. On the other hand, it hasn't got all the kind of bright and witty young things that one would expect from a Noel Coward play. It has enormous heart because it's about the British. It's about how the people actually won through and will win through. We've certainly kept all that, and I would like to think that in this production he saw the production which he would want.
Is it a play for a crisis, then?
I think it is. I think it is a play to stir an optimism in us, because when one looks at the events of the last 50 years, you actually see how we've been knocked, how we've been put to the test again and again, and indeed how we're going to be put to the test even more. So I think it is as apt to do the play, possibly even more apt to do the play now than it was for Coward to do it in the 30s.
Coward cast this for the Drury Lane Theatre Royal. He had a cast of 90 who were drawn from his pals, all of whom had some prior experience of walking on in the West End. And you've got a cast of amateurs, and they total 300. Now, how did it get to 300, and why did it stop there?
I went through an early period of despair, thinking we weren't going to have anybody at all. We advertised, and we just sat back and waited, and replies began to come in, and I said I'd set up a meeting in which anybody who wanted to be in it could come along, and we'd have it in the auditorium one Sunday afternoon. And we arrived, and I said, well, no one's going to be in it. We're all going to be left with egg on our faces, and nothing's going to happen. And one or two cars appeared, and a couple of people trickled in. And then I was called away to take a phone call, and it was a long phone call, and I looked at my watch and I thought it's 4 o'clock. I suppose I ought to go down and see them. And someone said, I don't like to tell you this, but the auditorium is full. Really? And then we realised, I think it was the first time I realised what we had on our hands. This massive number of people all raring to go.
From the very first day, the amateurs loved David Horlock. They loved being directed. They took direction well. But perhaps it was at this first costume call that their nerve ends really began to tingle.
We had to come in on our right foot and go right, forward, over and then up and kick, right?
Yeah. So if we're all going to the left first.
Yes.
If we're all going to the
There are two of our groups in Fleet, and the Fleet players and ourselves. Although they've been going longer than we have, we think we're just as good. And we have a lot of help, of course, from local people.
Right, we're a bit behind, and we've got the war to get through before lunch. So I just want to take this through the once. Now, do remember those half freezes when John's going to be singing "Are You Like to Be Beside the Seaside" and in the Honeysuckle. Those half freezes, which are very important.
Still no professionals in sight as the seaside scene kicks off. Not actually with the right foot, as it happens. But what else is rehearsal for?
And keep the movement going there in the middle. You're not moving around. You can't speak, but you can move. And freeze. She went on board the ship dressed as a boy, and that's how the captain recognised them. Her hair probably coming down under her cap. But then how she managed at meals, she couldn't wear her cap then. It's Mrs. Crippen that gets on my mind, poor dear, being all chopped up into little tiny pieces. All together now! Thank you very much, ma'am. I'd like to see the house again. I was very happy there. Right, can you come back onto that position, please? That's the freeze position. Quickly. Right, can you get down? Now you're going to need a bigger space here anyway. Get down, get down. Quiet, please. Right, now not everyone is actually following the plane over. Now, the thing is that Uncle George will be here, and he'll have the stick, and he will actually help you, because he'll point it over for you.
Uncle George will be played by the unsuspecting John Hughes, still at the Watermill Theatre, Newbury, in Stoppard's Night and Day. Jennifer Wilson is finishing up a play for television. The resident company have only just opened in Sherlock Holmes. Will there be any room left for them when they do walk on? Or will it seem like this, right over the top?
So, it's down the steps, through the dock, round the back, through the clubroom, restaurant, great coat on, tin hat on, up the steps. Okay? 1, 2, 3. It's a long way to Tipperary. Go. It's a long way to go. Don't run.
This is the first attempt at timing what will be called the Great Coat Run. People buying tickets for the show and ASM's backstage might well wonder what's going on.
It's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly, farewell, Princess Well. It's a long, long way to Tipperary. My heart, great coat!
Yes, and the hat!
It's a long way to Tipperary.
It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary. 80
Yes, that's right, the Redgrave Theatre, Farnham. The Chief Constable asked me to have a uniform officer about greatcoats.
No, we don't want them for a month.
Yes, the officers wear black greatcoats.
Yes, but you can't pick them up ourselves.
Gary, have you managed to get them?
Probably about a fortnight's time.
What colour are they?
Black.
Simon, what colour are they?
Navy blue.
I just found out they were grey.
Hello. There's a problem, I'm afraid. You don't by any chance have access to grey greatcoats?
It looks as if actually we're going to have to look elsewhere, because you don't have grey greatcoats, do you?
News of the right shade of greatcoat has yet to be broken to Brenda Huggett, soldier, deck chair attendant, railway porter and general man. Edward Pearson, soldier, seaside swell and policeman. In real life, an auctioneer. Brenda's okay now.